Hello. Today, I want to talk to you about draining the swamp. And Dr. Turley has a very good video up about it, and I'd like to follow along.
Just days after he was sworn in as Attorney General, Todd Blanche is already cracking down on corrupt Democrats like never before. All across the country, we have multiple arrests of high-profile Democrat politicians and operatives in separate corruption schemes, all breaking within days of each other. Make sure to stick them in the very end of this video because we're going to see how these crooked politicians are finally coming to justice in what is nothing short of a full-blown reckoning for the modern Democrat machine.
Okay, a lot of folks have been complaining about how he's not really draining the swamp. Thing is, Donald Trump and a large portion of his current cabinet have to have the swamp drained just so that they don't end up being persecuted the way Donald Trump was persecuted during the Biden administration. We all sat back and watched all the lawfare come out. Anyway.
Hey gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, your patron professor, here to help you make sense of the madness with breaking news and analysis you're not going to get anywhere else, so make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. Also, there's a lot.
And please do like and subscribe to Dr. Turley. He gives a lot of good information.
Hitting you every single day, and you don't have time to chase down every headline. That's my job. My Patriot Alerts break down what actually matters and what it means for your family in just a few quick updates. If that sounds like peace of mind, tap the link below. It takes 60 seconds to join, and it's free. All right, so it's happening. It does appear that the days of reckoning are being unleashed on the corruption inside the Democrat Party. Let's start with the breaking news on Heidi Beirich. She's the former head of the ultra-liberal Southern Poverty Law Center's so-called intelligence project.
Now, if you all remember, what was it? The neo-Nazis and Patriot Front and all those groups. Turns out that they were all put together, including Klan's group, modern Klan, were put together by the FBI and paid for by the SPLC. And every time you've seen the Patriot Front or the Klan or any of these other neo-Nazi nutjob groups pretending to be the right on the news, it was all a set-up show. It was all a media trick. It was all to make it look like the right is violent. Unfortunately, we have the Summer of Love to look back upon fondly, and we know for a fact that it is only the Democrats who are the violent ones. And we're talking about the communist Democrats and a lot of the Islamist Democrats.
She was just arrested in California. According to federal prosecutors, Beirich helped oversee a scheme where SPLC donor money was funneled into bank accounts opened under completely fictitious company names, so shell companies as they're called, and ended up in the pockets. These funds through these companies ended up in the pockets of, I kid you not, KKK Klansmen, neo-Nazis, Aryan Nation bikers, American Nazi affiliates, and the very organizers of the 2017 Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville. Do you remember this? This broke just a couple of months ago. The SPLC, which supposedly exists to combat racism, was actually funding it.
Yes, and it was funding it because they need racism, which did not exist otherwise, in order to keep their organization open. And there's this narrative going around that, oh, well, they were just doing this to try and, um, send spies in to check up on the KKK and all these other racist groups. The racist groups wouldn't even exist if they haven't uh, had any money sent to them by SPLC. If you believe the whole narrative about them just sending a few spies in to, check up on the organization and infiltrate it or whatever, then that's something you want to believe, but it's bullshit.
They were actually funding the very racist groups they claimed to be fighting, and they were doing it through these fake set-up shell companies so that the money couldn't be traced directly back to them. So this was blatantly intentional. Well, the first domino in that corrupt scheme has fallen. It turns out that this woman, Byrick, was not only involved in funneling money to organizations like the KKK, but prosecutors say that she actually shared a joint bank account with a paid informant, an informant who had infiltrated the neo-Nazi National Alliance. And get this, she was allegedly living with him. She was romantically involved with him, all the while roughly $140,000 in donor funds moved through their shared accounts between 2015 and 2021. That same informant reportedly received over $1 million total from the SPLC since 2007. And it doesn't stop there. The informant Byrick was allegedly involved with is accused of breaking into the headquarters of a white supremacist organization and stealing 25 boxes of documents. Those stolen documents reportedly became the basis for a splashy 2015 Hate Watch article published by SPLC, written by none other than Byrick herself. And when the burglary needed a fall guy, prosecutors say that the SPLC paid a second informant about $6,000 just to take the blame and keep the real source hidden. So this is the first indictment involved in holding the ultra-left SPLC accountable for literally fabricating racism to the tune of millions of dollars to justify their pathetic existence. Now let's go to
What did I just tell you?
Hawaii, where things just went from bad to catastrophic for one of their major Democrat power players. Hawaii's...
Okay. This is Hawaii's governor, and there are a bunch of other Hawaiian officials involved in this gem of a government money scandal. And it's definitely part of the swamp that's getting drained.
Lieutenant Governor, you heard that right. Their Lieutenant Governor, Sylvia Luke, the second highest official in the entire state. She was just indicted on 12 felony counts, including criminal conspiracy to commit bribery. According to prosecutors...
Okay, for those of you who are not attorneys, an indictment means that someone is charged by a grand jury. Grand jury, you're talking 18 to 24 citizens, registered voters brought in, and they operate in secret. They go over evidence, and they vote on who is to be charged and who is not to be charged. And if you're working for the federal government, the only way you're allowed to charge people is by indictment in the federal government. Now, most of the states, including the state that I work for, Florida, they have two methods of filing charges. One is indictment that I just explained to you, and they only use that in specific cases that they feel they really need to use it. And the other is called an information. And information is a list of charges that the prosecutor, whether that's a state attorney or district attorney or whoever, feels that they have the evidence that they could prove in trial these crimes or whatever that they're alleging, and they do their own investigation and sign off on the information themselves. Anyway, moving on to Lieutenant Governor Sylvia Luke and her bribery charges.
It was back in January of 2022. Luke sat down for a private dinner in a Honolulu steak with businessman Toby Solidum. Now, according to the grand jury, before dessert even arrived, Solidum handed her 2 checks totaling $10,000 with a promise of $70,000 more in campaign contributions to come. 1 month later, her powerful House Finance Committee helped move a bill approving a staggering $170 million in COVID relief funds tied directly to the testing contracts Solidum wanted. Solidum, meanwhile, allegedly walked away with millions from those same COVID testing contracts. And when investigators started closing in, he didn't stick around and face the music. He liquidated his assets and he fled to the Philippines, where he remains a fugitive to this day with a no bail warrant out for his arrest. But Luke wasn't operating alone here. 4 other Hawaii officials, including Solidum, have all been indicted as part of the same scandal, and they're all Democrats. We're talking a former State Department of Human Services director, a state airports administrator accused of lying to federal investigators, and even Luke's own campaign treasurer accused of falsifying records to hide illegal contributions. So 5 officials, 1 fugitive overseas, and a trial that's going to expose exactly how deep this rot goes in Hawaii's Democrat-dominated government. And then finally, let's go back to California, to Oakland, where Democrat corruption reached an...
Oh, this is another good one. Everybody who thinks that the 2020 elections were not stolen, I'm sorry. It's starting to look a lot more and more and more like they were, in fact, stolen.
Entirely different level. Former Oakland Mayor Sheng Tao, once celebrated as the first Hmong American mayor of a major U.S. city, she's now facing federal bribery, conspiracy, and honest services fraud charges that could put her behind bars for up to, get this, 95 years. According to federal prosecutors, the scheme started before she even won her election. The Duong family, who run California Waste Solutions and control Oakland's massive recycling contract, allegedly poured $95,000 into attack mailers against Tao's opponents, all in exchange for promises that Tao would extend the recycling contract, buy housing units from their shipping container company, and even install a city official of their own choosing. And it gets worse. Prosecutors say Tao's longtime partner, Andre Jones, was promised roughly $300,000 through what's called a no-show job, a job where he didn't actually have to work, right, like Hunter Biden with Burisma, just to collect the check. And when that wasn't enough to qualify for a home lease, prosecutors alleged the whole scheme fabricated a fake $150,000 job at a cannabis consulting business run by Tao's own sister.
Oh, boy. Also, I wanted to add in, this lady was called a Hmong. My history is correct. I believe the Hmong were a minority ethnic group in the country of Vietnam. They were mostly in the hills, though. Anyway, this is getting fun.
So, yet another Democrat orchestrated pay-to-play scheme here, blatant, and they got caught. Now, you'll notice You're not hearing a word about this in the legacy media, right? Imagine if all.
Of course not. They don't want any of this stuff out. The swamp is being drained. That's the point of the whole video. The swamp is being drained, and Trump is doing what we've elected him to do.
All these arrests involve Republicans. I mean, it'd be on the front page of every major legacy media outlet. And that's, of course, because the media is more interested in steering perception instead of simply reporting facts. Now, the good news is that millions are realizing that our news is broken, but they don't know where to turn for reliable headlines. Well, luckily, there's a solution that helps you see exactly what's being emphasized, ignored, or spun. Ground News pulls headlines from over 50,000 news sources and makes it easier to understand what's actually happening. I mean, you could see the political bias of each outlet in sites like Reliable News.
Yeah, I sped that up just to get past the Ground News commercial. However, I personally use Ground News, and I do recommend it if you're wanting to get the left, right, and center stories on everything.
/Steve. The re-election of Donald J. Trump in November.
Yes. Now, this is going to go into the appointment of his new attorney general. I know a lot of folks had problems with Pam Bondi. Personally, I don't think she did that bad of a job. I'm not too happy with the whole Epstein mess, but whatever. I also think the Epstein mess has more moving parts to it than anybody wants to realize, such as all the victims that come out and show their faces to the camera. I think they need to do a lot more testifying and other such things. I think they know a lot more than what they're letting on. Long story short. And all right, let's just go on and meet the new AG.
November 2024 signaled unequivocally that the vast majority of the American people have had it with our insulated political class. They were done with the days our elite could be shielded from real electoral or institutional consequences. The people wanted an end to the self-enrichment that comes from corruption going unpunished. Trump was elected, at least in part, precisely to be that enforcer. And Todd Blanche, our new Attorney General, is wasting no time in bringing corrupt Democrats to accountability.
Dr. Turley keeps pointing out the corrupt Democrats. There are also a lot of corrupt Republicans out there that I'm quite sure that our new AG is rounding up as well. I've noticed that a lot of rhinos haven't been winning their primaries lately, among other things. And I haven't really heard from the Bush family in well over a decade, which is good. Anyway, okay. One thing you have to know or realize about Trump, he is a CEO. When he puts someone into a high position at, say, a company or whatever, like he hires a new CFO or he hires, a new security person or whatever, that person has a certain job within their job or project that they need to do, and then they're gone. I don't know exactly what Pam Bondi's project was, but Trump did come out and say that he was not displeased with her, which makes me think that her project, which was probably along the lines of setting up all the chess pieces and trying to release the Epstein files, had come to an end. So she left, And now we have our new AG, who seems to be just going on a tear, ripping through the government and other elected officials and other connected corporations and putting people in jail. This is I believe, our third example we're on to. Yeah, had the SPLC, the Hawaiian lieutenant governor. Now this.
Since Blanche took over as Attorney General some months back, the DOJ has been aggressively cracking down on leftists. In March, the DOJ quietly assembled a specialized task force, Joint Task Force Vanguard, staffed by organized crime and terrorism prosecutors specifically to target left-wing political networks reporting directly to Blanche under a national security directive. In April, the department's weaponization working group issued findings accusing the Biden DOJ of politically selective prosecutions, reversing years of what conservatives have viewed as one-sided enforcement. Now, of course, critics call this retaliatory. Civil rights groups have accused Blanche of turning the DOJ into an instrument of personal rage and citing the SPLC case, ironically, and the persecution of figures like James Comey as evidence. But for conservatives who spent a decade watching the DOJ decline to touch entities like the SPLC despite mounting complaints, this looks less like weaponization and more like much-needed accountability finally catching up, an overdue correction after years of institutional immunity for the most protected and precious organizations. Bottom line, institutions dominated by Democrats that quietly exploited weak oversight for years are now facing the delayed reckoning that follows when trust finally runs out and investigators catch up to behavior that's been priced in as consequence-free by our liberal elites for far too long.
That word you just used, trust. That seems to be what this whole battle is about. The American people have lost the trust of their elected officials. I'm not the only one who thinks that the Democrats only win by cheating. I'm not the only one who think that 80% of our tax money is fraudulently made to disappear. Let's keep going.
The good news is that the good guys are indeed catching up. Arrest after arrest, indictment after indictment. The accountability so many of us have waited years to see is finally arriving. The swamp doesn't get drained overnight, but brick by brick, indictment by indictment, it is happening right in front of our very eyes. Before I was ever on your screen, I was your professor.
All right, that should be the end of Dr. Turley's video. He goes on to advertise his book and his courses, and he is a good doctor, so if you could like and subscribe to Dr. Turley, Dr. Steve Turley, please do. And also, while you're at it, please like and subscribe to me. I could really use the help. And if you decide that I've earned your like and your subscription, thank you very much. Have a good day.